they will have long died. What we are doing now is not only for the now, but it is for the future. You owe it yourselves in your generation to be able to travel in the expanse of this continent without any limitation. The advantages of a borderless Africa will range from our tourism to our agriculture, to our education, cultural exchange, militarization of Africa, and protection of our own resources. Right now we are battling as Zambians, as Zimbabweans, as trucks are moving out minerals away from our country to the Chinese countries. But when they do that, they cross over other countries. They are taking them from Congo, through Zambia, through Zimbabwe, through South Africa, to the borders. And these are the jobs that belong to the African children. Every time you see a truck full of materials driving past your town, you must look at that as your jobs, your resources, and your futures going to fuel the industries of other countries. We cannot stop to even pontificate the development of Europe with all the industries that they have in Europe. That all those industries are built on the resources that are being taken out of the African continent. And as much as young people are complaining and crying for jobs, those are the jobs. And borders are the leakages. That's where the minerals and the resources and the brain drain of Africa is happening. We want to enjoy the benefits of the continent in its totality. And it is in your hands as young people, starting right here in Zambia. Yeah. In the background of our stalwart Kenneth Kaunda, yes, who stood at the formation of the Africa Union. Yeah. We're here 60 years later to even remind ourselves that the vision that they had for Africa has not been realized. It's such a joy and a pleasure to see all of you plugging in into that future. We are 60 years behind, and the spirit of our ancestors and the forefathers who formulated Africa is with us. We wish and we hope that the entire African continent, particularly the young people who are in universities, young people who are looking for jobs, that this is a worthy cause to get yourselves involved in. Because the transaction and the transformation of our borders will not only impact us in the present, but going forward into the future, we will be able to enjoy a united Africa, yes, which I want to become part of. One Africa, one people. One Africa, one people. We don't want borders in Africa. We want a borderless Africa.
Yes. Whoever controls Africa controls the world, because Africa has the largest deposit of non-renewable resources: gas, oil, gold, silver, manganese, and cotton, minerals that are necessary to create any kind of nuclear and nuclear energy, and half of them are in Africa. There is no nuclear age without Africa. There is no solar age without Africa. There is no technological age without Africa. And China knows that. That's the reason why China and Russia wants to possess Africa. China is overpopulated. You think there is rush hour in New York or rush hour in Washington, D.C. is something. Go and sit in China. It's overpopulated. China is #1 producer of cheap things: clothes, materials, fabrics, utensils, you name it. China is the Walmart of the planet. America will never be able to sabotage China, because America is the king of capitalism, and China, on the other hand, is the king of communism. Russia having a permanent seat at the UN Security Council is one of the reasons why the countries in the alliance of Sahel states have strategically linked with Russia, so that Russia can veto certain decisions at the UN Security Council in their favor. And this should have not been the case if Africa have at least 2 seats at the UN Security Council, so that Africa can be able to take decisions to favor its own people and to be able to influence international relations at the world stage. This is the reason why Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali took Russia as an ally for their strategic and long-term goal. Since Africa does not have a permanent seat at the United Nations Security Council, and for Russia to veto in their favor in matters that concerns the alliance of Sahel states, though it would have been more strategic if Africa can align with Africa and provide African solution to African problems without any external influence for a united Africa with one passport, one army, one legislation, one currency, and one president. That will be powerful and strong because the only true friend Africa should have is Africa. Who is going to treat Africa best? The Americans, the Russians, or the Chinese? None of them are going to treat Africa well because they are all colonizers. Africa has no friends, and we don't need one. The friend of Africa should only be Africa, providing African solution to Africa problems. All these borders in Africa is working against the cultural, spiritual, and economic good of Africa because the more Africa trade amongst itself, that is, Africa continental free trade area, and get to know each other more, that is when we are going to realize we are one people, and this border serves as a limitation to our unity and good as Africans. Moreover, all this self-hate we have for ourselves, from Cairo in Egypt to Johannesburg in South Africa, to Nairobi in Kenya and Lagos in Nigeria, will be eradicated. For Africa, best friend is Africa, and the only way our voices will be heard is if we come together and start speaking with one voice and stop being each other's enemy to the benefit of foreign powers. For whoever controls Africa controls the world. So Africa needs to unite and control Africa in order to control the world. Africa, wake up. Africa, rise up. Africa without borders. Africa, continental free trade area. The time is now. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.